Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining in. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. I wanted to talk about the dangerous and deceptively titled piece of legislation called the Employee Free Choice Act, otherwise known as card check. The bill is a direct threat to our nation's economy, and I want to applaud the efforts of groups like the Workforce Fairness Institute to get out the facts about card check and what it would mean for workers and businesses across the country. Card check would effectively eliminate the existing rights of workers to vote by secret ballot when choosing whether to form a union, leaving the door open for coercion. And just as bad, if a recently formed union doesn't agree to a labor contract with an employer, the legislation calls for a government arbitrator to step in and impose salaries, benefits, and workplace conditions. Now, mandates from government arbitrators on wages and benefits are going to increase costs and burdens on employers, resulting in layoffs and increased unemployment at a time when the economy can least afford that. Now, every American business, both large and small, are going to suffer under this legislation. I think there's an impression out there that this is just going to affect large businesses, but this is also something that's going to be directed very much at small businesses across the country. And as people outside of Washington call to let you know, and I think they all know this, people out there that are creating the jobs are not created by unions or government arbitrators. They're created by the small businesses and the entrepreneurs who would be hit the hardest by this law if it is enacted. Small businesses across the country are already struggling mightily, and the last thing I think they need right now is for Congress to saddle them with even higher costs and more regulations. If the bill passes, there are lots of struggling small businesses that are going to have to close their doors because they're not going to be able to meet the union demands, and that's going to leave a lot of the workers high and dry. So plain and simple, card check is a job killer. It is a bad news story for our already weakened economy. And as everybody now knows, the Democrats have 60 seats in the United States Senate with the arrival of Senator Franken, and the labor unions are ratcheting up their efforts to pass this bill in the Senate, even though national unemployment now is at 9.5%, and studies show that card check will cause even more job losses. But I still believe that even with the addition of Senator Franken, that the Democrats don't have the votes in the Senate to pass card check. And so what you're now seeing as a consequence of that are these reports that labor unions and Democrats are working on a compromise that aims to somehow tweak the current language just enough to hopefully win passage. And I want to be very clear on this point. There cannot be a compromise when it comes to card check and mandatory arbitration. The stakes are simply too high for workers, for small businesses, and for our economic recovery. So with or without Senator Franken in the Senate, Republicans in the Senate are committed to defending the rights of American workers by defeating this bill. And despite the fact that they now have a supermajority in the Senate, I do not believe that Senator Reid has the votes that are necessary to pass this very bad piece of legislation. So I'm happy to answer